1 2 1 check. 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 Check 1 2. Test. 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 Camera.
Test. Test. Putting arena. Test. Test.
This one. Check one. ಇವಾಗ ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಹಿಡ್ದಾಳ ಮಂಗೇನು check one. Check one. ಅರೆ check one. Check one. Check one. வேமா நீங்க உசடி இது பார்த்தா check one. Fifth session of Forum of Ministry and Environment Authorities.
Check, testing one, check.
Check, testing one, check. Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, check. Perfect.
What the other one? Yeah, it's the same thing, same setup.
Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, check. Testing 1, 2. Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Check. 1, 2, 1.
Check, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination. Decided to establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate its base from Nomea to Samoa. Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination.
Once everything's perfectly organized, I'll start working on my thesis.
Grant.
And I'm feeling alright, babe. Can't even remember myself for hours.
decided to establish
Test 1 2 1 check. Testing 1 2. 1 2 1 check. One two one check. 1 2 1 check. Test test 1 2 1 2 1 check. 1 check 1 check 2. Two. Test. Check 1 2. Testing. Check. Test 1 2. Test.
Me. මේක zoom එකෙන් දෙන්න.
Test. හරිනේ. Test.
Video play කරද්දී මට ආවනම් හරිනේ boss. මට එන එක මේකට යන්න මේකෙන් යන්නේ සත්‍ය සම්පූර්ණ.
Decided to establish an independent spread
test, 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 test. Ah. Test, test, test.
Establish an independent decided to establish 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 an independent spread and agree establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate a space from establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate a space from Nomea establish establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate a space from Nomea to Samoa. Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination. Decided to establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate a space from Nomea to Samoa. Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination. decided to establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate its base from Nomea to Samoa. Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination. Decided to establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate its base from Nomea to Samoa. Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination. Decided to establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate its base from Nomea to Samoa. Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination. decided to establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate its base from Nomea to Samoa. Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination. Decided to establish an independent spread and agreed to relocate its base from Nomea to Samoa. Since that time, we have taken many small but confident steps towards this destination.
Isambul Vinaka and a big talofa, Kirana, Ali, Ofalayatu, and welcome, Kirana. Kirana Mitaki. And welcome to our side event this afternoon on Pacific Climate Change, Oceans Management Initiatives. Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, members of UNEP, and also the government of Sri Lanka, thank you and for taking your time to attend our side event this afternoon. Our side event is greatly hosted and rather co-sponsored by UNEP, the government of Sri Lanka, as well as PrEP. Our agenda is quite exciting. We have a presentation. We've got a high-level panel session, and we've also got some question and answers and a video at the end. Yeah. Just to my left, or to my right rather, to your left is a series of fact sheets that you can please take. They've all got the QRL codes, so you can just take that on your phone, and you have access to the SPREP virtual library, the SPREP annual report for last year, as well as the fact sheets to assist members with the negotiations for a legally binding instrument to address plastic pollution. I'd like to also welcome those that are linking online, and I note that there are a number of participants who have linked online. Our apologies for starting a bit late. Some of our distinguished members the meeting in plenary finished late, and they were having lunch, and they will join us. May I ask you to join me in prayer before we start our session? But Heavenly Father, we thank you for our wonderful session that we're about to have here this afternoon. We'd like to pray first for the leaders and the people of Sri Lanka. May your love and generosity continue to be a shining light to all of us in Asia Pacific. Thank you for being such a gracious host. For our leaders, for the ministers and senior officials, that may your commitment to the work of addressing the triple planetary crisis through the work on the SDGs continue to lead us to a future of great prosperity. For those that are working in the environment and are implementing the SDGs in communities, that may your passion and commitment deepen the community's faith and trust in the work that you do. For our meeting participants and delegates, that may your participation here this afternoon continue to both bear fruit as you return to your countries. For this we pray in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Thank you. I'd like to now call upon our Director General, Mr. Seffanai Nawandra, to set the scene with his opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And welcome to our distinguished panelists who will be on the panel with me after this. All the questions they can answer once they get up here. What I'm doing now is just trying to give you a flavor of the work that we're doing in the Pacific and within SPREP. I know a lot of the times we come to these meetings, we are often swamped under the issues of Asia. So this is always an effort for us to try and get some of our issues up on the agenda, because we need the help of our partners here in Asia more than anyone else in addressing the issues that we face. So I hope that you will take what we are presenting here today in that light. Our side event is focusing on how we are addressing climate change in the region and also the issue of ocean. Because of the time, we cannot cover things exhaustively. I hope that if you have any questions or issues that you want to follow up on, everything is on our website. And if there's something that cannot be accessed or more information you need, then please contact us. We're more than happy to help you. And if we are not able to, then we will connect with our individual countries who have their own issues that you may be able to work with them on. SPREP, next slide, please. SPREP celebrated this year its 30th anniversary. So we've been around for 30 years with the intergovernmental organization that addresses environment in the Pacific. We came out of UNEP together with our member countries in the Pacific. They decided to form SPREP. Initially as a part of another regional organization called the Secretariat of the Pacific Community. But then 10 years later, in 1993, our members decided that we needed an independent environment organization. It's a bit like a child growing up, because now SPREP hosts the Pacific Sub-Regional Office of UNEP, who was one of our regional parents. Doesn't mean that UNEP is reaching old age, but as a child of UNEP, we make sure that we look after their interests too in the Pacific. Our vision is to look after our environment, but in harmony with our cultures. I think that's a very important point, because in order to get traction on environmental issues, it needs to make sense for people who live in the region. If it doesn't make sense to our people, then it will not work, because it's something foreign to us. So this is something that we ensure within SPREP, that whatever environmental issues are implemented or addressed in the Pacific, it's in line with our beliefs, with our cultures, and with what we need to do to make sure that it's a Pacific solution to the environment issues that we face. We have 4 priority areas of work: climate change and resilience, ecosystem and biodiversity protection, waste management and pollution control, and the issue of environmental governance. Ocean, as a Pacific country, island country like Sri Lanka, this is first and foremost in everything that we do. So we don't address it as a thematic issue, we address it as a cross-cutting issue. And those of you who were upstairs earlier today will have noted the interventions on the need for synergies, for working together in an integrated way to address these various strands of environment issues that we continue to address. We are a member of the Council of Regional Organizations in the Pacific. The Pacific is different from many other regions. We have very strong regional organizations, not just as the political bloc, but in the technical areas of work. This is our major point of difference from many of the sub-regions or all the sub-regions globally. And we are part of that family that belongs to the Council of Regional Organizations in the Pacific. As an organization, we started in 1993 with a staff of 35. Over the last 30 years, we've now grown into an institution with 150 staff. We still have our headquarters in Samoa, but we now have offices in a number of different countries, in Marshall Islands for the Micronesian sub-region. We have an office in Fiji, office in Vanuatu, an office in Solomon Islands. And we also have presence in all our countries through the projects that we work on with them. This was a very important lesson that we learned from COVID. We can't work from a distance. We have to work close where we can. A lot of things can be done virtually, but nothing beats meeting up physically to make sure that we get our work done properly. We are also hosts to a number of organizations. The Pacific Sub-Regional Office of the World Meteorological Organization, the UNEP Pacific Sub-Regional Office, JICA waste program that has been with us for about 23 years. And we are also secretary to 2 regional conventions, the NUMEA, which is our Regional Seas Convention in the Pacific, and the Waigani Convention,
is our regional equivalent of the Basel Convention. Next slide, please. We talked about the need to accelerate the work on SDGs. As a region, we have a framework that was approved by our leaders last year, the Blue Pacific 2050 strategy, that will enable us, with the help of our partners and our donors and our communities, to accelerate our achievement of the SDGs. Like many other developing country regions, in some of the SDGs, we are very slow in work, especially the one on oceans. So this is something that we need to work on. There are two thematic areas that are important to us to work in the environment sector, because it's directly under our responsibility. That's ocean and environment, and climate change and disasters. So this is an area under CROP that SPREP leads with SPC, which is the other regional organization that we originally came out of. Our implementation plan for this will be approved or will be decided by our leaders in this year's leaders meeting in November in the Cook Islands. And the Cook Islands has come up with an approach for partnerships for prosperity that will be tabled with our leaders. Two of those are with or led by SPREP in the region. That's on Weather Ready, which is an initiative to address climate information. I'll touch on a bit later on. And also on the addressing of high-level ambitions to address plastics. This is something that is core to what we need to do in the region. We've done most of what we can in the region and in our member countries. Now we need the global support and the global bar to be set higher so that we can achieve what we need to for our island communities and generations to come. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, one of the issues with climate change is its cross-cutting nature. It's the same with oceans. So it's very hard to address as a thematic issue in terms of governance. So this is something we continue to grapple with as a region at the intergovernmental level. So within SPREP itself, we have historically always led on climate change. But when it became mainstream, other thematic instruments and at the political level, we have to accommodate a lot of that, which is something that we worked for right from the beginning. But it means we need to adapt and change our governance arrangements to ensure that we are able to do this properly. This is an exercise that we're doing now, also as part of the 2050 strategy. And what we have is a line for climate information through meteorology. We also have one for environment. So now we need to try and marry them together. After that, then we will need to look at the other thematic streams that need to be addressed as part of climate change. And the way that we will be doing that is through the revitalization or the resurrection of the Pacific Climate Change Roundtable. 10 years ago, we used to have this roundtable. It was functioning very well. But our leaders at the time decided we needed to merge together with disasters. So what we've learned 10 years later, that it doesn't work. So we need to go back to what we used to have before to make sure that we address both issues that are both important with the right emphasis that's needed. We have expert panels underneath it to underpin a lot of the decision making to make sure that the information and the data that they get is the best available and presented to our decision makers in the way that they can consider properly. Next slide, please. This is a photograph of the Pacific Climate Change Center, been in place since 2019. came out of a wonderful act of generosity by the government of Samoa, where they allowed the bilateral money to be spent on the regional institution. And they, with Japan, set this up. Samoa gave the land and agreed to the use of the funds that Japan gave. We also have support from New Zealand and Japan for staffing initially, and now that has grown to include Australia. And we continue to have interest because the work of the center continues to gain momentum. Next slide. It has, it's semi-autonomous. It has its own advisory board made up of members of SPREP and also donors who contribute to the work. And the focus is on applied research, innovation, knowledge brokerage, and capacity building. And again, emphasizing the vision of SPREP, that whatever we do in the Pacific needs to be Pacific-led and Pacific solution. Make sure that it works in our context. Next slide, please. Weather Ready Pacific. We may have heard about the initiative with UNEP and GCF, where 60 million 5-country project to address climate information and building up our meteorological organization. We have 14 Pacific Island country members. So we need to address the others as well. So Weather Ready is our solution. We are using Weather Ready to replicate and upscale what we've been able to achieve under that DCF project. It's a $170 million initiative. We got our initial pledge from Australia for 30 million. New Zealand is likely to follow. And we're pretty confident that this is something that our donors will help us with and will be interested in working with us on. Next slide. With waste, plastics is an issue that we all need to address now. And the INC process is something that the Pacific worked on with many like-minded countries. And now that it's there, we need to effectively engage. We're thankful to Australia for the funding that they've given to enable us to prepare well as a region. We've had 2 INCs already. We had good regional preparations, but unfortunately we didn't get anywhere much in Paris because we went round and round because with all these rules of procedure. But it's good now that we've got a zero draft and we can start negotiating fully when we go to Nairobi at INC. We will be having regional preparations in Palau 2 weeks from now, where we will finalize our regional positions on the zero draft. And then we will go to Nairobi and have meetings 2 days before the actual INC to consolidate our work so that we are working as one region or one Pacific region. Next slide, please. We're not doing this alone. We have many partners from our member countries and also institutions, NGOs, and universities that are helping us to make sure that our negotiators get the best possible support. Next slide, please. This is not a one-off thing. It's a 2-year process, and we have planned this out together with our members to ensure that this is done properly, even down to having plans for the next 2 INCs leading up to the diplomatic country. Slide, please. One of the issues that we face is marine pollution, the risk of marine spills. It's probably more an issue here in Asia than it is in the Pacific, but we wanted to share how we do it in the Pacific Island countries. We have 4 metropolitan countries that are members, and we have an agreement that they work with they cover different number of countries in response and contingency planning and preparedness. But we're not only relying on the governmental arrangements, we also have a partnership with the private sector that's funded through New Zealand to allow for coverage from marine spill response private sector partnership to serve our region. Another initiative that we have in waste is the Moana Taka. This is an initiative with Swire Shipping, where shipping that returns empty with containers can be filled with waste that needs to be taken out. But we need to ensure that it's done properly. So that's the loop that we need to close. It's been successful over the last 2-3 years. Not as much as it can be, but it's enough to get UNEP to want to do this globally. So that's a shipping partnership that is being established as a global initiative with the global shipping companies. Next slide, please. Thank you. I hope that sets a bit of a flavor of what we have been doing in the Pacific. And I can ask the panelists to come up. We can start our panel discussion with Anthony.
Sefa, thank you very much. And as Sefa said, we'd like to invite the panelists to come up to the stage. The Honorable Mr. Stephen Victor, Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Environment, and also the Chair of PSIDS from Palau, sir. The Honorable Mr. Ampalosa Manoa Tehulu, the Minister for Public Works, Infrastructure, Environment, Labor and Disaster, and also the SPREP Chair from Tuvalu. The Honorable Mr. Tere Api from Terapi Kavana, Associate Minister responsible for the environment from Cook Islands, Kirana, sir. And Bula, His Excellency Mr. Mena Yavoli, the Ambassador of Fiji to Indonesia, also ASEAN and ASCAP. We have a wonderful panel here for you, ladies and gentlemen. And our Director General, Sefa, has set the scene quite nicely for us to discuss more in depth the issues for Pacific climate change and oceans management initiatives. So without further ado, I'd like to call upon our first speaker, the Honorable Mr. Stephen Victor, for his opening statement. So the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by, on behalf of Palau and as Chair of PSIDS, give our gratitude to SPREP for organizing this event, and most especially for the support that SPREP continues to provide for member states in the Pacific. Yesterday, I attended an event hosted by ICIMOD, trying to establish a similar framework in the Hindu Kush Himalayas, because they recognize the value of biodiversity, the importance that the Himalayas has for the people of the 8 countries that borders the Himalayas, as well as the impending impact of climate change. And so for us in the Pacific, we're very fortunate that long before we have started to discuss these issues, that the Pacific leaders decided that we need regional organizations that helps us address some of our key challenges, because we lack the needed capacity to help provide the technical advice and support needed to inform policy development within our respective member state. So in listening to that conversation yesterday, I got to really appreciate the value that SPREP as an organization grounded in the Pacific, with Pacific leadership driving this important agenda for the Pacific. I also sat at the Science and Business Forum yesterday, and there was a presentation that talks about global emissions and Asia Pacific accounting for over 50% of that emissions. But when it comes to the Pacific, we only account for 3% of that over 50%. And so this is a situation where we're sort of lumped within a region where 55% of the global solutions to emission rest. And I hope that in this discourse, we can continue to figure out ways in which we can all work together to address these global challenges that affect the ocean. For us in the Pacific, the ocean is a lifeline for us. It's what defines our people, our culture, and our livelihood. There are three underpinning challenges that we currently face today that has made the ocean, which has been a lifeline, to become somewhat of a threat. When we talk about climate change and sea level rise, some of our low-lying atolls will disappear if we don't keep 1.5 degrees within reach by the end of this century. I won't speak for Tuvalu because he's sitting right next to me, and he will tell you the story of what that actually would mean to Tuvalu. For Palau, we have several low-lying atolls that will disappear if we don't keep 1.5 degrees within reach by the end of these centuries. Compounded with that is the plastic pollution. As Pacific, we don't produce plastic. We're on the receiving end of the pollution that come from elsewhere. And so how do we all work together to address these two challenges that are generated elsewhere, impacting the Pacific, which provides over 50% of the tuna supply to the global market. Most of that tuna ends up in Asian markets, such as Japan for fresh sashimi, and then for canned tuna in Thailand, and then exported elsewhere. So the Pacific is not just important for the Pacific Island well-being, it's important for global food security. So how can we all work together to address the issue of climate change, plastic pollution that impacts biodiversity loss, that then will impact the health of the fisheries that supply global source of fish protein. So these are major issues that as Pacific, we have all worked together with a united voice in terms of how do we address these challenges in working together. SPREP has continued to provide that technical platform as well as the technical capacity that allows us to assess what are the innovation as well as the science that's available that sometimes not at the grasp of our fingertip, and SPREP does the synthesis and able to develop them in such a way that they're informing how we're negotiating globally, how we're developing national level policies that helps us address these challenges by building our resilience as coastal communities scattered throughout the large Pacific Ocean. The Director General has already spoken about the various international and regional processes that we participate. Palau assumed the chairmanship of Pacific Small Island Developing State in January this year. And we support Samoa as the current chairman for the AOCs, and Palau will pick up that role in 2025. Some of the things that SPREP has really helped support member countries are negotiations around the CBD, ensuring that we protect biodiversity, particularly ensuring that there was a commitment to 30 by 30 on oceans and marine ecosystems, and on the BBNJ, ensuring that we can help support management and all those who utilize areas of within BBNJ to be more accountable, and so that we can't really manage ocean health, because we can't do it alone within the Pacific. High seas account for maturity of the oceans that we need to manage, and so BBNJ was a huge success for us in the Pacific. We're now in the process of the INC on plastics. And again, SPREP has continued to provide that support, both technical as well as policy. So as a PC chair, we're quite grateful for that continued support being provided by SPREP as well as UNEP and other universities that provides the science that we need that will help inform the oceans that we want for the future. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much for those words of, I guess, sharing the reasons why the ocean is important to us in the Pacific, but also how that we are, or how the Pacific is managing its ocean resources for not just for the people that are in the Pacific, but also for the global community. So I will now move on to our second speaker, the Honorable Mr. Ampolosa Manoa Tehulu. Sir, you have a busy portfolio. You are the Minister for Public Works, Infrastructure, Environment, Labor, and Disaster from Tuvalu. Mr. Everything, I'd like to now hand you the floor to provide your.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for leading us today in our prayer. I think that's typical of our Pacific way. And secondly, I would like to thank you all for making your time to sit in this panel, in this panel. And I hope there's a meaning between the reasoning behind why are you here, or is it whether it's academic or self-interest in our Pacific region. I'm gonna discuss very, very brief on the current impact of climate change. As you know, or as you all know, that the Tuvalu has been severely affected by the climate change. Now, I just before I came in, I was meeting the minister from Korea, and he was discussing things about how the fund are been given to Tuvalu to implement these environmental species. And I told him, Your Excellency, those species will be disappear in a few years' time. So I think the message I want to pass on this platform, it's either you care about our people, the environment, or might as well just forget about the whole thing. Now, I have attended two back-to-back meetings in Suva, in Fiji. I think one of them was mentioned by the Director General about this weather ready initiative for the Pacific. I raised this issue with the donors and the floor. What exactly you were trying to do or give us to Tuvalu? We want to introduce the radars, improve the early warning system. And I asked them, for what? Can you tell me what is it that you're gonna benefit Tuvalu? Especially in a low-lying atoll. There's nothing. And now we're investing $170 million to these infrastructures and this equipment. They might be very useful to other countries in the Pacific. For example, PNG, our brothers from Fiji, Samoa. But honestly, in the case of low-lying atolls, no, it doesn't work that way. So the message I was trying to pass to the minister from Korea, you either see us properly, like where exactly you want to give your money to, or don't. You can save your money and invest it somewhere else. We are not going to wait. We are not going to wait for other countries to stop their emissions. And this is very, 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 very true. In the last two back-to-back meetings, I just told the Australian government, you either stop producing your coal, or you will kill our people from home, our low-lying atolls. I think the catch between this climate change is that we've been talking too much about climate change and its impact. I know you all have different kind of problems. We all have problems. But this poor nation that I'm talking about, Tuvalu, especially our friends from the Marshall Islands, Kiribati, the low-lying atolls, they will be definitely disappear in the next decade. Scientific has proven from the World Met Station, the amount of sea level rising is far, far more than they have predicted. Yes, I want to acknowledge the presence of the good work has been carried out by the spread. I think that's relevant, and it should be applauded and be respected that they are doing this for the sake of the Pacific. But this is a bit different in this case. We can't be combined together and call Pacific, and yet the smaller Pacific are dying. My fellow colleagues and the audience, I want to thank you for your time, for your courage and your interest to be here and to listen to what we have to share. I have to share with you. And as mentioned before, it's a straightforward thing. You either take it serious or don't take it serious. That's okay. That doesn't matter. You do your thing, I do my thing. Thank you.
Papetai Lava, Honorable Minister. Take it seriously. I think the impacts are real. The impacts on small island states, especially smaller island states. The atolls are real. Your needs are very specific, and the ambition has to be high for those that are emitting more, and also those that are wanting to help. We'd like just to thank you very much for those words of encouragement. Thank you. I will now move on to the third speaker, Kirana Sir, the Honorable Minister, Mr. Teriapi Kavana, Associate Minister responsible for the environment from the Cook Islands. Kirana Sir, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, MC. I'm honored to participate in this side events on the Pacific Climate Change Ocean Management Initiative. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, to our distinguished panelists, our ministers from the Pacific and our distinguished guests, I thank you, Director General of RIP, Sevan Avatar, for the invitation to join this event today. I will talk about the high ambition coalition to end plastic pollution. As plastic pollution becomes ever more visible both on land and waterways, calls to tackle the reverberated around the world of the approximately 8.3 million tons of plastic produced since 1950s. Study shows that 6.3 billion tons of annual waste, with between 8 to 12 million tons of plastic leaking into the marine environment each year. This number is expected to more than triple by year 2050. Studies have linked unsustainable production and consumption pattern to exponential growth in plastic pollution, which impacts human health as well as the health of terrestrial and marines ecosystem. In 2022, there have been reports of plastic particles found in human lungs and human blood. In 2021 report found microplastic in human placenta. And Pacific environmental ministers. Declaration on the prevention of marine litter and plastic pollution and its impacts expressed their deep concerns about accelerating rate of plastic consumption and production and its impacts on the Pacific people, its biodiversity pollution and food security. In response to these growing concerns, UNEA passed several resolutions and contact technical working groups, which lead to the adoption of passing of UNEA resolution by 5/14 in plastics pollution. Towards an international legally binding instrument, this is a significant milestone given the mandate to develop a global treaty that is legally binding. To further increase momentum, to ensure we address the plastic crisis through this legally binding global treaty, a group of like-minded countries have taken the initiative to form a coalition of countries with high ambition to push for a strong treaty that will address our plastic crisis, address chemicals and polymers of concern. Problematic plastic, intentional microplastics, and give developing countries the means of implementation like finance mechanism. The High Ambition Coalition to End Plastic Pollution is committed to develop an ambitious international legally binding instruments-based and comprehensive and circular approach that ensures urgent action and effective intervention along the lifestyle of plastics. This includes upstream measures from sourcing and extraction to midstream in the plastic product design and to the downstream in waste management system. The common ambition is to end plastic pollution by 2040. At the outset of the plastic treaty negotiations, three strategic goals to call for a reduction in plastic production and consumption to sustainable levels, enable a circular economy of the plastic that protect the environments and human health, achieve environmentally sound management and recycling plastic waste. The Cook Island is strengthening its effort nationally to expand the banned list of plastic products, improve waste management system, and embed national criteria for the importance of sustainable and safe plastic products. As we prepare for the upcoming negotiations for the Plastic Pollution Treaty next month in Nairobi, the HEC is meeting next week to workshop the zero drafts of the treaty released by NEP. The HEC is proposing intersessional work and many preparatory meetings to expedite its readiness for the negotiation of its members. We have an ambition timeline to have the final negotiation session in Republic of Korea in late 2024. Every day, 1 billion single-use plastic is used, and only 9% of it gets recycled. The rest in our landfill, land, or oceans. We have no time to waste. Time for action now. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister Kavanagh, thank you very much. I think, again, the message is quite clear. The time for action is now, that the impact on both the plastics to our ocean, to our health, to our biodiversity is real, and also to food security. The Pacific has the moral high ground, and also like to commend Cook Islands for the initiatives that you're doing, and also for the leadership that you are taking and that you will be taking at the Forum Leaders Meeting in November this year. Thank you very much, Metaki. We'll move on to our fourth speaker, His Excellency Mr. Amen Layavoli, Ambassador of Fiji to Indonesia, ASEAN, and ASEAN. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Let me at the outset greet our leaders in the room for gracing this important side event for the Pacific. And also, I would like to make a mention of the presence of our youths. I think they're sitting at the back. They are future agents of change, and I think your empowerment is really critical in this journey as we go forward in terms of achieving net zero by 2050. My message is, I've got only two messages for us this afternoon. One, the global climate trajectory is going to overshoot beyond 1.5 degrees. If you want to see the report, the IPCC Assessment Report 6, I think it should be available to all of you, to all of us, to see the grave danger, what they have projected for the global world, particularly for the vulnerable countries from the Pacific, from the Indian Ocean, and also from our Asia Pacific region, the landlocked countries would be facing in the immediate future. The report is saying that it'll be overshot by within 5 years. But if you really look into details, the adverse impacts are huge for our various countries and our communities and our people. So the onus is on all of us to work together. I've been involved in climate negotiations. That's why I'm familiar with this process, and also in other negotiations, which I'm always be emboldened by the fact that we can all work together and move these things forward. Because without our partnership, without our working together, this ambition of achieving 1.5 degrees long-term temperature goal will just a dream in reality for all of us. That's my first point. The second point is the oceans is our barometer of change, our health barometer for all our people and communities. Without fixing one, it will worsen the other. So what we are saying is that there are two sides of the same coin, these issues here. We need to really expose our thinking in our minds on how we can elevate some very strong leadership positions from Asia Pacific region, particularly from the Pacific, and how we can protect our oceans. I'm not going to go into details on the implications of climate change on the oceans. I think the distinguished colleagues have, panelists have already mentioned that, and even the Director General in his presentation. But the message that I just want to press upon all of us, through such process as the Asia Pacific Ministers of Environment and meeting as such, as well as the UNEA meeting that is coming up, which meets biannually, which it meets every 2 years. We need to be present. We need to voice our issues. We need to be strong and stand together in solidarity. We have been doing this in the past, but this is my third year in Asia as Fiji's ambassador to a permanent rep to UNESCAP in Bangkok, as well as to bilateral missions. The point that I would like to say is that even in this region, the Pacific is missing. We are fortunate that we have one mission like us who are carrying the burden for all of us here, because I know what affects us also, what affects Fiji affects all of us. So we have to work together and try and build stronger platforms that will enable us to continue to push for our issues at the global level. There is, as I said earlier in my intervention this morning, we are racing for time because the gaps are ridiculously getting wider. You talk about finance gaps, you talk about other gaps, it's really getting wider. So we really, really need to work together. Thank you, Tony.
Mr. Vinavalevu, Your Excellency, thank you very much. I think again, the message is very clear and very real. I'd like to maybe just invite our Director General for some remarks before we go into our questions and have a bit of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I was just telling the Associate Minister from the Cook Islands, I don't need to say anymore. I think all has been said by our panelists. It's something that we continue to say, and we just hope that the world will take notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I invite any of the audience for any questions or any comments?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I see that we have quite a few leaders from the Pacific Island nations. And
Sorry,
I have
so could you just state your name and
my name is Buanaka. I'm from Ceylon today. So we hear that as Pacific Island nations that are in close relations with Australia, one of the biggest polluters on the planet, they're also bidding for COP26. Now, as Pacific Island nations trying to tackle the climate crisis, you all have been brilliant leaders. Do you think that Australia is trying to, using the Pacific Island nations, trying to sort of greenwash themselves? Because through like the Port Vila resolution, there has been some clear demands that were made. And even when the bid for COP28 was made, the Pacific Island nations still went ahead and said, we will give the support only if the subsidies by Australia are cut down. Since that statement has been made, Australia has made more than $11 billion worth of subsidies to these fossil fuel companies, while giving $700 million for the Pacific Island nations that has been devastated by multiple cyclones and still facing increasing water levels and so on. As Pacific Island nations, as leaders, as policymakers, do you think enough has been done from the side of the Pacific Islands in forcing, I'm sorry for using that word, because at this point, I think we are in a crisis where we have to force these nations like Australia, because if you take, for example, the state of Victoria and the state of the state of Victoria and state of South Australia alone makes more carbon, puts out more carbon than the Pacific Island nations put together. If enough hasn't been done, what do y'all recommend that needs to be done? Is it okay to even go to a point where you call upon sanctions on a country like Australia? Is that climate justice? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a very important question. I think if in reality, this is in real time. I met the foreign minister for foreign affairs for Australia, Penny Wong. It's like just like this. We are face to face, and I made it very clear. It's very clear. You reduce your coal, because as I mentioned before, when you reduce your coal, there's an economic loss there, and there's a human benefit to my people in Tuvalu. But if you increase your economic benefits, there will be dead people on my island. But I will support you. I will support you on your bid for the Pacific COP meeting. I think the catch is here is that, as I mentioned, you do your thing, I do my thing. Now the ambassador has made it very clear. The prediction about the 1.5 it's already out in paper, in the worldwide. Even our school children, they could understand. But in a depth meaning of life, I think that's the most important thing that we should do now. You either listen to me or I will turn my back. Because I'm not gonna wait. And I'm not gonna beg. I am tired. We are tired. You know, when you are tired, you get angry. And then when you get angry, you think about others. And you think about, why should I get angry to others? Now I'm doing my own thing. I will do my own thing, my own stuff. I won't listen to anybody else. But the message is clear. You will be my brother because you are my neighbor. And we are all human beings. We are connected in some way or another. Either by culture. I think that's a very good point that you mentioned up there, culture. Just recently, we amended our constitution and we put our culture and our heritage. Those heritages will be gone in 5 years' time, 3 years' time. But yeah, you made a good point. The other point was mentioned that there was a security briefing and all this. I just bluntly say, hello, are you for real? Or we are reading. People are reading papers. People are being educated. And we don't have to be bullied like this. No, you can't do that to a human being, irrespective of what the country you come from. No, you don't do that to people. You don't do that to people. You can do that to machines, but not the people. Not to the people. So, sir, with your question, yeah, I am willing to turn my back if that comes to West for my future and my future generation. Thank you.
Let me just add to the discourse here, and I appreciate the passion that you have on this issue and being very well informed about the challenges. And I think this is to me where the power of inclusiveness need to be brought to bear to address the challenge. Yesterday, I was sitting at the Science Business Forum. There was only one leader who is a woman. She's sitting right here from Bangladesh on the table. There was no youth representation at the table. So I think this is really where we need to, as members of society, how do we ensure that there is inclusiveness in leadership? There are very well-meaning effort, but as we all understand, there are political forces, there are economic forces, and there are lobbying at play every single day, every minute. So how do we ensure that we don't get played by those forces and we are focused on what is the solution that we need to address? And the solution is really, how do we reduce our emissions? As individuals, what can we do so that we're doing our part, and so that when we're pointing the finger at somebody, that we've done our part? There's very less of that that I see at this global stage. So how do we make ourselves accountable? When we make ourselves accountable by making the right decision, by choosing someone who will represent us, who will be inclusive in how they're thinking about these issues, then we're making them accountable. Then can we actually address climate justice? To address climate justice, to me, is about addressing the social injustice that are happening today. Because if we cannot address that, we cannot address climate justice. How do we give equal voice to the most vulnerable? How do we give equal voice to women who do not have voice in some of the societies where we come from? We can't expect to address climate justice if we are unable to address the very things that we as society have power to change. And yet, sometimes there's unwillingness to change because of our assumed view about cultural differences. We're living in a global society, and we're living in a time where the threats are global in nature. And so inclusiveness, to me, is something that needs to start from where we come from, and then we can address these challenges altogether. Thank you.
Honorable Ministers, thank you very much for the response. Yes, please, Your Excellency.
Just a quick response to the question. I think we need to bring it into the discussions on parties' obligations to climate change. This is like negotiation languages. I thank you for raising that because the parties are clear with their obligations. If you look at the Paris Agreement, Article 1 and 2, even Article 9 talks about the financial obligations of developed country parties to pay for all these mitigation and adaptations. That is very clear to parties. And then we have what you call bilateral initiatives. And that's what they're doing. They're influencing bilateral initiatives. I always believe that the importance of engaging under the multilateral processes, because that's where all member states are locked in. And it's our role to ensure that the multilateral process works to our benefits. If parties are going outside of that, then we can bring them back to the multilateral process. So I would just like to raise that point because, you know, for me, I think the solution still lies in that multilateral process. We need to come back to the negotiation table. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Your Excellency. I've got maybe two more questions. We'll take the lady here, please. If you can state your, sorry. You can state your name and, okay. You state your name and the organization first.
Yeah, I'm Nat Danya from the Philippines. I work with an NGO called ETC Group. I have a question for the speaker from Tuvalu, but before that, I just would like to state how we agree so much with the statement of the gentleman who's seated in the first seat about the really the need for addressing social and economic inequality in order to attain climate justice. And we do agree that inclusion and participation is very important in ensuring that multilateral actions are effective. And just to a point of information, the reason why the panel on the Science Policy Business Forum did not have the youth yesterday was because there was a parallel meeting of the major groups and stakeholders in the other room, which is a big issue when it comes to participation, inclusion, and consistency of the UN, no, in enabling multilateral actions that involve non-state actors. Sir, to the speaker from Tuvalu, we have been following the announcement of Tuvalu about being the first digitized nation because you're losing everything in a few years as you announced. So I think part of the strategy that your foreign minister announced in Glasgow and then in Sharm el-Sheikh is to put the Tuvalu in all its physical and cultural practices in the metaverse. So you will digitize the whole thing. So I would like to ask about the status of that digitization approach initiative. Also would like to know if it's an official or formal under an official or formal collaboration with Meta, which is the owner of Facebook and the promoter of Metaverse, and would also be good to share like the terms of that agreement in order to inform other countries that may suffer the same fate in the following years, because there's a lot of concerns on the control by big tech of the rules of the game in digitalization, which relates to the first speaker's point on addressing social and economic and power inequities in order to attain climate justice.
Thank you, my friend. I think on the digital nation, I think as if you catch my earlier presentation about the desperation of our people and our children, that's why we look for options. We engage with other. I think there's a Sony company in Korea. Now, my friend, my sister, why we do this? Because we are so desperate. There are some disadvantages of it, and there are some benefit of it. Though we went global, it went viral in global, because of the idea. But the driving force behind it is that we are desperate. We've been talking too much COP after COP after COP after COP. What are we doing? Are we for real? Or we could have saved this money for other charity things instead of coming here and there gone, eating good food, everything. Are you for real? Are we all for real? Or is this economic benefit that you want to get out of this forum? No. The question is that it's you and me. We have to make a decision. If you don't bother, as I said before, if you don't bother, please don't bother and let me do my thing. And those things might be very, very, very bad. I might do that. Why? Because we are all Pacific. We are all related in somehow. You have a heart. Unless you don't have a heart, then you're in the wrong place. If you have a heart, then you can feel your children, your culture. Why are you being here? Your existence here. We are, I mean, the science and everything we have it there. What else do you want? You want to increase our graveyard? Is that what you want? No. No, that's not what you want. So, my sister, why we went to Metaphor? That's how desperations we are. We have to come up with some ideas. If in the worst scenario cases that we have to go down within 5 years, and at least we have something. If my grandson or daughter today accesses in somewhere, but that's not human. That's nothing. That's not life. We want to hear your heartbeat. It's just like when you hold your baby or your loved ones. Yeah. You could feel the heart is beating. So I think the issue here is we are tired. We are tired of talking. Our former Prime Minister saved Tuvalu, saved the world. Yeah. He got a medal from Italy for being active and proactive and a good leader. What does that medal mean to my grandson? So even if we try to do this to be conservative, to be inclusive, but who is doing that? Is it the robot? Is it the cleaner? Is it the dishwasher? Is it who? It's you and me. We have this opportunity. We have the upper hand. We must do it now. The ambassador, he have a very wide experience in this is my first term in Parliament. I don't need to read things because it's in my heart and I've seen for real time. And I'm sharing this because it's real time. It's not a book that someone had written and asked me to present. No, I don't do that. I don't do that. When you speak to someone, you speak from experience, from reality, and from your heart. Now I sense you. Now I sense you. I'm feeling you. That you are quite, either you are disappointed or there's a message been sunk into your head and down to your sweetheart. But if you don't care, when we all walk out from this room, and if you don't care, please just do your thing and leave me alone. I'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're running out of time, and I know that we've got lots of hands up. The speakers will be 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Okay, 7 minutes. Can I take one question from the youth here, please?
The things you've been saying is so inspiring, especially as a bus speaker youth. It's so incredible to hear from leaders, not just from my own country, but from across the Pacific. And so my question is, how moving forward can we bring more women and young people into leadership roles within the Pacific and represent our communities at this stage?
Maybe the Honorable Minister Victor.
So it's a good question, and it starts from you. It starts from, like the minister said, it starts from you and me. How can we put the right people in the right leadership position that will look at our interest? I'll speak for Palau because I'm from Palau. We have a woman who is a vice president. We have 2 members of the Congress. And our local governments, we have 46 women who are members of our local government legislatures. And we have youths. So it's a situation where we need to change our mindset about women and the youth. There's a tendency to think that young people have less experience than the older people, and therefore they cannot be in leadership positions. But I think time has changed, and so it's up to us. Do we change with the time, or we let time change us? There's no right answer, but I think it's all up to us. What are we willing to do as individuals to keep the movement going? We're seeing it moving globally. Climate change is becoming more and more of an issue for the youth because of a young youth from Europe. How can we give that same voice to youth and women from our region?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I think, please, sorry, Honorable Minister.
Can I comment on this?
Yes.
Back in my country in the Cook Island, 80% my country, head of ministries are women. Women are in my country are very respected. I think that's how most of the communities in my country, most of them are women. So in respect to all of the women, I can see there are a lot of women in this. So I do respect, I love women. Yeah. They are the backbone of my family. They are the backbone of the country. So women, we do respect you. That's for my country, the Cook Island. Thank you very much. Just to help out our panel tonight.
Okay, final one last question. We'll take it from the lady here. Women, can I have the mic to the young lady here, please? Thank you.
Hi, hello, and please excuse me that I only want to state my gratitude for all of your sharing. To introduce, my name is Ngọc. I'm from Vietnam. I'm a public figure in Vietnam and also a young activist who try to mobilize youth for climate change and their participation in climate change action in Vietnam. And I actually come from the Mekong Delta. So I share a lot of things in common when you mention about how about Pacific Islands. Similar story in the Mekong Delta. We are also one of the most vulnerable region for climate change. And at the same time, there's a key word happening in Vietnam, that is the Mekong Delta is sinking. So deeply in my heart, I truly feel your pain and your devotion trying to make a change and trying to encourage the next generation and the minorities in the community to speak up their voice for this matter. No question, I just want to say thank you. And I hope that in the future, I remember there was one saying from you that you do what you do and we do what we do. But honestly, from Vietnam, we want to know what you are doing as well, because the story that we are, to be honest, we are small countries. We are trying to elaborate our voice. We're trying to amplify our voice. And we cannot do that if we don't have the means or don't have the connections with others who share the same story, who share the same pain, who share the same values. So once again, thank you so much. And we hope that in future global forums, we can make this into a common story of all and not just in any specific region. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, I'd like to, because we are on 2:00 now, I'd like to now hand over to our Director General, Stefan Anawandra, for the closing and the thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Again, I don't have anything more to say, just to thank all of you for coming here to listen to us and to hopefully take back something that will help you to work with us to address this common issue that we all face. I want to thank our leaders and speakers who have articulated our concerns more than what I hoped they would. Thank you.
In March 2023, the Solomon Islands Prime Minister, who is also the Minister for the Pacific Games, Honorable Manasseh Sogavare, launched the Safe and Green Games strategy. This strategic framework provided a platform or a point of reference to galvanize the nation to come together as we prepare to host the Games and to make Honiara a safe, clean, and green host city. To this end, I wish to acknowledge with gratitude the substantial assistance provided by the various programs and projects within SPRED to support the Safe, Clean, and Green Games strategic framework through the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, Disaster Management, and Meteorology. Your support has enabled development of a regulation to ban certain single-use plastics, cleanup campaigns and waste audits, tree planting and carbon offset activities, assistance with weather forecasting for sports events, youth involvement, and the provision of awareness and promotional materials. SPRED has stood tall among our top agencies in supporting the 2023 Pacific Games, injecting a total investment of approximately 4.8 million Solomon Island dollars, making SPRED the 10th largest contributor overall to the Pacific Games. Thank you very much indeed for the support.
It's a beautiful feeling to welcome Pacifica in my island home. So these are the moments to cherish. Games will live on forever. As we challenge, we celebrate, unite, build on the passion together.
You got to show your island pride. Raise your games flags high. Let your spirit be free. It's time for you and me. Stop letting time.
Are you ready?
Reach for the stars. Oh, yeah.
Pacific and you, my Polynesian way, Solomon Island.
Reach for the
Pacific and you, Polynesian way, Solomon Island.
Once I pick up the pace, come and stay in the game and never give up. Momentum with a flick, you had to make it to break it, gotta live it up. Hold your head up high, keep your head up high. This is a battle when you fall, get back up. In place of the ranks, sweet victory, set history. This is just story. For the sacrifices we make it, the challenges that we face it. We strive to be the best, how we rest for a change.
Raise your hands up to the sky and wave it side to side to show the love. So we unite, Pacifica as one. We sing a harmony.
My Solomon eyes were open.
Yeah, I think in terms of the elements on ensuring that if our climate actions are effective or not, is probably to look at the impacts of those actions at the country level, at the community level. Is there a change? Are they impactful? Are they effective? Those are the key elements we should ask ourselves. What the methodology provides is a very quick, simple snapshot of what's actually happened to a project, say after 5 years when it's closed. And so that in my opinion is quite useful. It's something that doesn't necessarily require too much investment. It's something that if you have longevity within a project site, you can actually apply it and actually use it in the design of future projects through the results that came out of the impacts assessment.
Hoping aroa te koe o ki te kōrero. Kōrero o te au anganga e rawe ia. E tauturu i te istangata. I te kimirāwanga i roto i tō rātou oranga, I roto i tō tauwianga rewa.
The tools I think will provide that sort of measurements that we will need to know in order for us to say this is an adaptation work that's effective, or this is an adaptation work that needs a lot more work.
And then you get to actually really understand that maybe we're not addressing the real issue on this problem. Maybe the issue is something else. Because at the end of the day is you want these activities to be successful and sustainable.
E ai inangaro ia te, ko inangaro ia te anu te mea, e akari ki tātou uarai, pera katoa ki tātou kamani, e pera katoa ki te ronga nā rātou I okuma te muni. E ko te ia te maata I te pōpinga te raukame. Me kore, ko te ia te tātou tūronga poruporu, I ra tātou anganga rawe nei tātou. Nā tire rau ki re e akari mai ki tātou e mea tau ki arawe tātou I te. Mea tau ki arawe tātou I te. Me ka e te e tupu. Me tāpura e karanga tōra ina koni. Kare tātou ki te kuakapea tātou I te rawe. E ati rauka mai ki te tātou anga rawe.
You know, from the national level, we tend to see like we know what the community is experiencing or what's their impact. This project actually just gave us a 360 view. You always depend on other leaders in the community, especially your state leaders, to think that they know what's actually happening in the community. But when you actually go directly to the community, it's similar, but then you really get to understand what they really need.
Controlling invasive species is one of the most effective tools that we have for restoring the resilience of island ecosystem.
Our natural environment through the different ecosystems provides a first line of defense against the impacts of climate change and disasters.
Anyone who's lived in the Pacific looks at the Pacific as a paradise, but it's quite different from what it used to be. There's so many introduced species that have become invasive.
Whenever rats have arrived on islands, they've had a devastating impact on the seabird populations.
Research have also shown that if we can remove rats, then seabird populations will recover.
Seabirds are absolute critical link between the ocean and the islands. They bring nutrients from the sea in the form of guano, and those nutrients flow back onto the reef, into the sea, where they improve the health of the coral.
Removing rats has a direct impact on the health, resilience, and productivity of coral reefs. In islands without rats, fish numbers are 50% higher.
If you look at the whole of an island like an ecosystem, then everything is interconnected. What's on land and what on the water are impacted by things that happen on both ends.
Controlling invasive species like rats and weeds is already helping in restoring the resilience of island ecosystems and island communities.
We've had some amazing successes across the Pacific, but on a small scale. The biggest challenge in terms of scaling up is resources. Removing rats from islands is intensive work and it requires significant funding.
Communities cannot work alone. It requires a lot of resources in terms of the technical expertise, in terms of tools, and in terms of financial resources to help scale up this effort.
Donors also need to understand that increasing investment in invasive species management is one of the most cost-effective things that we can do to restore the resilience of island ecosystems. In 2023, Tonga will undertake the region's largest ever predator eradication project on the island of Late. This work will secure refugia for 95% of Tonga's biodiversity in a single action.
With the resources that have been secured, we're going to be able to remove rats, recover the biodiversity, recover the island seabird populations, and it's just a huge win.
This important work in Tonga is now providing a pathway to expand predator eradication efforts into inhabited islands across the Pacific, including the entire territory of Tokelau and communities such as Samoa's Apolima Island. More Pacific leaders, NGOs, and communities are working to show donor partners why investing in the management of invasive species can provide real benefits in terms of improving livelihoods and increasing resilience to the impacts of climate change.